Hey friends, we are back. We had a little bit of a interruption, but Core and I are going to finish this episode for you. Abby will likely probably be back towards the end. She might be throwing in a video there. She did have to step away, but we are going to finish this out. So, Miss Conjure Cutie, please come to the stage and tell us about your quest.
Well, hello. My quest, let me get this pulled up because it was on Folklore and Legends. And I'm going to be reading an entire story to you. So I'm going to be reading from my phone, and I may mispronounce some things. You know, I'm not perfect. And honestly, I'm really bad at pronouncing things in general, whether it's English or Greek. So just bear with me, okay? But essentially, folklore is rich with stories that have been passed down through generations. And my quest will delve into the world of folklore and its significance. That's what Jazz put. It's pretty great. So my prompt was to choose a piece of winter-related folklore from any culture that intrigues me, and I would get bonus points if I could relate it to the Midwest. And when I thought of the Midwest, I immediately thought of rivers and how important rivers are to the Midwest in general for transportation, agriculture, settlement, all of that. So, some of the major river systems in our state of Indiana specifically are the White River, the Wabash River, Wabash, I don't know, Maumee River, and the Blue River. Most, if not all of these rivers have like their own folklore, their own cryptids, monsters, hauntings, Mothman, all of that stuff. And I could delve into those things and take up like 20 hours talking about stuff. But I decided that I would focus on just rivers in general. And the river Styx is located at the boundary between Earth and the underworld. And I thought that was a good river to focus on. Styx is also known as the River of Hatred or the Blue River, which is very fitting since we have our own Blue River in Indiana, which is surrounded by limestone, strangely. Styx is both known as a goddess and as the personification of one of the rivers in the underworld. The river Styx is poisonous, and only vessels made from the hoof of a horse or a donkey could contain its water, strangely. The river's waters were believed to be icy cold and deadly. While Styx herself is not directly associated with winter, the river's icy, forbidding nature can be metaphorically linked to the harshness of winter. The cold waters of the Styx evoke the chill and desolation often associated with the winter season. So one of the most iconic stories revolving her is when the epic clash happens between the Olympian gods and the Titans. I don't know if you're familiar with Greek mythology at all, but that was a wild, wild time. So in the ancient times, long before the reign of the Olympian gods, the world was actually ruled by mighty titans, and among them was Styx, the daughter of Oceanus and Tethys? Tethys? Am I saying that right, Jazz? I don't know.
I think it's Tethys. I'm not sure.
Tethys.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure either. I'm sure someone will be more than happy to correct our pronunciations. Y'all, we're West girls, okay?
I'm literally just a girl, okay?
Literally.
I'm literally just a girl.
And we be pronouncing things a little different sometimes. Sometimes I call it my pocket theory, okay?
Well, I learn from reading. I don't learn from people reading to me, so I don't know. So anyways, the daughter of Tethys, who lived in the depths of the underworld where her river ran cold. When Zeus, the youngest of the Olympian gods, decided to challenge the Titans for control of the cosmos, he knew he needed powerful allies. He called upon the gods and goddesses to join his cause, promising them great rewards if they helped him overthrow the Titans. So Styx was a little sketchy, and she did help him, but she had a good reason, okay? So she was wise and discerning, and she saw the potential in Zeus's vision, okay? She gathered her children, glory, victory, strength, and force, and led them to Olympus. There she pledged her loyalty to Zeus, offering the strength and support of her formidable offspring. Her children, her 4 children, have other names, but I don't want to mispronounce them, so I'm just going to tell you what they represent. That's why I said victory, might, and all of that other stuff. So Zeus was deeply moved by Styx's loyalty and the power of her children. In gratitude, he declared that from that day forward, all oaths sworn by the gods would be made in the name of Styx. The decree made her river the most sacred and binding force in the divine world. So even though people don't talk about Styx that much, like the fact that her river is one of the most divine and sacred binding forces in the divine world, like, come on, like, what do you mean? I feel like she's a pretty important person to know about. God, Titan, whatever you want to refer to her as. So as a god, you did not want to break an oath made with Styx, let alone, like, you just didn't want to get on her bad side in general. But let me read this excerpt from Hesiod's Theogony. Hesiod's Theogony for you. Essentially, it's an old poet who uses Greek theology and Greek timelines. But let me just gather myself to read this. For whoever of the deathless gods that hold the peaks of snowy Olympus pours a libation of her water and is forsworn must lie breathless until a full year is completed, a full year, and never come near to taste ambrosia. Oh, you're this way. And nectar, but lie spiritless and voiceless on a strewn bed, and a heavy trance overshadows him. So they're just lying for a year, confused. And then when he has spent a long year in his sickness, another penance more hard follows after the first. For 9 years he is cut off from the eternal gods and never joins their councils or their feasts. 9 full years. 9 years he's cut off from like being around other gods and titans. What the fuck? That is so crazy. But in the 10th year, he comes again to join the assemblies of the deathless gods who live in the house of the Olympus. Oh, so it's just the Olympic gods. But I don't know. I just feel like if I was a god, 9 years doesn't seem that long, but it's still a pretty long time, especially to mortals. So with Styx and her children by his side, Zeus waged a fierce battle against the Titans. The war known as the Titanomachy? Help. Jasmine, how would you say it?
I don't know why you'd ask me for pronunciation help, because I'm not much.
Girl.
Maybe
Titanomachy.
Maybe Titanomachy. Yeah. Maybe.
Titanomachy. Anyways, it was a war raged for 10 long years. The earth shook, the seas roared, the skies were filled with the thunderous crash of the divine powers. In the end, Zeus and his allies emerged victorious. Thanks, Styx, with your son victory. And the Titans were defeated and cast into the depths of Tartarus, a dark abyss far below the underworld. Zeus ascended to the throne of the gods, ruling from Mount Olympus with his siblings and allies. Styx returned to her river, her place in between the underworld and earth, now praised by all the gods. Her loyalty had not only secured her a place of honor, but also ensured that her name would be forever associated with the most solemn and unbreakable oaths. And so the goddess Styx became an enduring symbol of loyalty and the sacredness of promises. So I think her story reminds us of the power of allegiance and the importance of keeping one's word, even in the face of great challenges. So in the prompt that Jazz gave me for my little quest, there were some questions. One of the questions were, how can we as modern trad witches incorporate this in our practice? Well, as modern trad witches, I feel like we already incorporate oaths into our practice. And if anything, the folklore of the River Styx is just a good reminder for why we should keep our word, because sometimes the oaths we make just aren't to other witches. So you need to be really mindful of those oaths, if you know what I mean. The other question was, is there a charm, spell, or craft we can make out of the lore? I would like to throw out a word of caution first. The goddess Styx can be related to hatred. She's actually known as the goddess of hatred. So she's not a love and light babe, if you know what I mean. But with that said, if you do work with her and build a connection with her, Styx has great power and is known to aid in divination, atonement, binding, punishment. I would encourage you to develop an understanding with her and create a relationship before trying to do any work with her. But again, she's great to work with if you do work with her. Some nice offerings for Styx would be black stones or river rocks, silver coins. She actually had silver pillars surrounding her river, so silver coins would be great. Death incense. I like, hold on. Here we go. I love this book. Okay. Of Blood and Bones. This is where I get my death incense recipe from, but this is my favorite death incense to use. I actually have it on a little sticky note right here. Haha. It was essentially most of the things that Abby had mentioned prior. So I'm not going to read it all to you, but this is a great source. I would recommend it. Death incense and bones, naturally sourced water, especially from rivers, blood, silver, blue, and gray candles. Those colors in general. So if you want to use like ribbons or whatever, I feel like those relate to her very well. And obviously blue, like blue in general, because she's the Blue River. But as witches, there's so many ways to work with water and rivers in general too. So if you're not comfortable building a relationship with Styx or working with Coolio or the left-hand path or dark deities in general, if that's how you want to put it, you can always just work with river water. And there's so many ways to do so. Like you could gather mud and water from a river to use in a clay poppet. You could utilize river water to freeze away your enemy. You can scry with river water and do some hydromancy. You can leave offerings or do rituals by rivers. I mean, they're known to be magical gateways. So you could even do hedge crossing. In Tradcraft, we used river water for anointing thread. like when knotting or braiding. And if you'd like for me to create some videos of how to specifically do magical workings with river water, just comment below. Or if you have questions on how to do things specifically, comment below. I'll help you. I'll make a little TikTok or something and show you what I do. But what I do isn't the only way. I will clarify. There's so many ways of doing it. And I will link below, since this is all local, I'll link below a site that you can go to check out all the different rivers that are found in Indiana. So if you are local to us, to Circle City, you can go out and find yourself a river to work with and make, friends with, do whatever with. And I'll also link my beacons, which shows my TikTok, YouTube, all of that. So, yeah.
Oh, right on. I thought that was incredible. I thought that your assignment here, like, definitely bonus points, because I love that you linked Styx back to Indiana. Like,
I mean, the Blue River, as soon as I read that, I was like, Styx. And I've been working with Styx prior to this anyways. Like, I posted about her in our chat. And I was just like, oh, like, this was meant to be. Like, I need to talk about her, I guess.
I really like the association of like swearing on the river Styx or swearing on the water of Styx, like when making an oath or a vow. Like, I feel like there's so much juicy craft that could be kind of spun from that lore, if you read between the lines. Yeah, I thought that your assignment was very well put together, very well thought out. And I really like that you also have this informational link about like the local waterways. I had no idea that we even had a Blue River. I know about the Wabash River and the Ohio, but some of the other ones, like the Maumee River, I didn't know about that one.
I think the Blue River also has the Ohio River in it.
Oh, it does? Like they're the same, or one feeds the other?
Like one feeds the other, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so my quest is all about the winter solstice celebrations. That's what mine was centered around. And as the longest night of the year approaches, the winter solstice holds deep significance and many traditions. And my quest was to sort of create a winter solstice ceremony for people to enjoy. In our coven, we have like our gray court. And there is sort of like a program that they can opt into to do should they choose to pursue traditional craft work over the winter when the coven is closed. But I am going to share this with everyone that's watching. So if you're interested in sort of like a winter trad craft-esque simple ritual, like how we had the simple Samhain, we're doing the simple solstice. Okay. So the prompt is to research winter solstice traditions from different cultures, and how do they celebrate or acknowledge, the returning of the light at the winter solstice, since the literal sun with a U, not an O, the U, is quite literally reborn, right? Because the sun dies and is reborn. Yeah. Okay. So the winter solstice, typically in the Northern Hemisphere, celebrated from December 21st or the 22nd, marks the shortest day and the longest night of the year. And we can observe this celestially from when the sun enters the first degree of Capricorn. When the sun enters that first degree of Capricorn, that's what technically marks the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. Kind of like how first degree of Aries is spring equinox, first degree of Cancer is summer solstice, first degree of Libra is the fall equinox. All of those can be charted astrologically in the heavens. So a couple of different examples of some winter solstice celebrations. I have like 6 here that we're going to go through. So the first one being like the neo-pagan, Wiccan, just sort of modern Yule specifically. So I put in quotes here, this ancient, because there's a lot about this that's very modern. And hey, that's okay. Like, it's perfectly fine for traditions to be new. It doesn't mean that there's not as much power or strength there because that really comes from your individual connection to it. So you could start a tradition this winter solstice and it could have a lot of meaning for you. You can create your own ritual and do it every year and start your own tradition. And it might even have more meaning and more power than trying to replicate exactly to a T a historic ritual from years and years and years ago, because we're living in today. We're not living in the BC times, if you will. So this modern festival of Yule involves lighting candles and fires to symbolize the returning of the sun. People will often decorate Yule trees or even Christmas trees, you know, from even a secular standpoint, exchange gifts, hold feasts. It's a time of reflection and setting intentions for like the coming year, often used also as a time of rest and rejuvenation. Not so much action, as we typically take more action on our path come like the spring equinox. The winter is kind of a time to slow down, you know, move indoors, shift over to like your reading, your writing, you know, your indoor crafts, just kind of taking a break, right? And really sitting with that stillness. There is also a Chinese festival, which is the winter's arrival. And it's a time for family reunions and feasts. Traditional foods like rice balls can symbolize the reunion and the harmony of that time of year. We have one of my personal favorites in terms of historical winter solstice, which would be Saturnalia. Amen. Okay. So this is Roman. So this would be a week-long festival honoring the god Saturn, who was also seen as a god of agriculture as well. Involves feasting, role reversals between men, women, slaves, masters. People would switch places. Gift giving, homes decorated with greenery, candles being lit to also symbolize the returning of light. Saturnalia, I feel like, is almost kind of like, maybe this isn't the best analogy, but I feel like the debauchery and the hedonism of Mardi Gras that we have is kind of the same sort of energy that Saturnalia would have, because for a week long, people are feasting and fucking and eating and drinking, and it's just a big party. So then we have St. Lucia's Day, which is a Swedish winter celebration. This is celebrated on December 13th, and it honors St. Lucia, a symbol of light. And young girls would dress in white gowns with red sashes and wear red wreaths and candles on their heads, and sing songs and bring saffron buns and coffee to their families, which kind of makes me think of like the wassailing traditions that we have here of like winter caroling. And so yeah, then I also have here like a Hopi tribe winter celebration, which involves rituals to welcome the sun back after its long absence. And they would perform dances and ceremonies, make prayer sticks, hold communal feasts. And then lastly, this is somewhat of an ancestral observance for me, and that would be Shaba Yaldas, which is primarily Persian, but can also be found throughout the Middle East as well. The celebration basically honors the new year. Watermelons and pomegranates and pistachios are kind of like the hallmarks of this holiday. Watermelons and pomegranates are eaten for good health and balance, because the watermelon and the pomegranate, they kind of represent like the light and the dark very poetically. They represent death, life, protection from illness, like, and then the pistachios are eaten usually more for like good fortune. Shaba Yaldas is a winter solstice like celebration, but it is also kind of like a new year celebration. So that fruit is eaten to give you life from the watermelon, to prevent death and sickness and bring protection from the pomegranate, and to bring good fortune and money to you through eating those pistachios. And of course, there's also candles that are lit. What's a ceremony without candles? And then there is a poet, Hafiz, and bibliomancy would be done from that book of poetry. And typically the eldest person either in the family or just the eldest person in the room is like honored, and they are the ones that flip open the hafiz and like read a poem. And then the poem that you receive from the eldest person is basically like your fortune for the coming year. So it's kind of like a fun practice. And I feel like it's very community building also, in the sense that like the night is long and we're staying up, we're eating, we're drinking, we're listening to music, we're reading poetry, and we're spending this time that has been very much feared together and like pulling strength from it. And so, yeah, that poem was basically to give you insight into the coming year ahead. So these traditions highlight the universal human desire to celebrate light and warmth during the darkest part of the year. During this time, magics focused on protection and good health and also fortune. Sometimes these are just lumped together as luck, like we talk about bringing in good luck or keeping bad luck away. What really is luck? Sometimes luck is kind of like, it's like herbs or seasoning, like you have an allspice or you have like your Italian spice blend. In that Italian spice blend, we probably have like basil, oregano, maybe a little rosemary, right? It's not a unique thing on its own. It's a combination of things. And I feel like luck is kind of like that. Like luck is happiness and health and wealth and protection and prosperity and prevention of famine and poverty and disease, right? So manifesting and like drawing luck into our lives cross-culturally is pretty important throughout different celebrations, because by having this luck, we make it through these dark times. And I say dark as in like literal darkness. It's dark outside. Okay. It's the darkest time of the year. And this, that being said, was a very scary time for many of our not even that so distant ancestors. And it still is. The mental health statistics here in America, at least, show that there are much higher rates of unaliving oneself during the month of January. And also, not to mention, like the plight of the unhoused people here in the Midwest. We do a really awful job at mutual aid and taking care of the unhoused. And unfortunately, many of them actually have to leave the area to warmer climates, because where we live, they will freeze to death. And like our city will basically just allow that. It's really horrific. So there's a lot of horror even still today. But even that, not that so long ago, right? You would be slaughtering animals that you couldn't keep alive over the winter and preserving meat. You would not have the agriculture that you had during autumn to really rely upon to sustain you and your families. If you ran out of wood to keep your wood stove burning, your family would freeze to death. I mean, this was like a scary time, literally. Also, we've got things like flu seasons and disease that can run rampant when things are moist from snow and rain. So it can be a difficult time. So basically, to go from that to this, to create a ritual or ceremony to honor the winter solstice. So I'm including elements like candles and symbols of the sun, but I would encourage you to think about any items that represent whatever this time of year means to you, right? So this is totally just like a blueprint. Again, this is not the only way, of course. This is not a gospel truth of how you have to honor the solstice, but below I have a link that will include, in the link section below this video. If you're interested, it's the Circle City Witches simple winter solstice ritual. If you're interested, I'll go over that here. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about what this time of year means to me personally, and then I'll kind of end on that document. So to me personally, the winter solstice is, honestly, it's actually one of my favorite times of the year. Like once we get to the first harvest, I'm in it to win it, babe. Okay. Like first harvest, second harvest, third harvest, that harvest season, that season of the witch, it's like bam, bam, bam. I've never felt more alive with the power of magic. And then extending the season of the dead through the winter, I love all of the bright lights and the colors and the foods and the scents and like the wine and the smells and just everything about this very cozy time of year. But see, it's actually really not that cozy. We're afforded through luxury and privilege being able to be comfortable through the winter to varying degrees, right? But if we're outside, we'd be freezing to death. So there's a very odd and poetic balance between like pleasure and comfort and also isolation and destitution that kind of plays out during this time of year. Um, I enjoy the darker, longer nights. I enjoy being inside like my nice warm home with like fuzzy socks and cushy blankets. If you're ever looking for a good gift for me, I'm always down for a blanket. I don't believe anyone can ever have enough blankets. I typically spend this year focusing more heavily on like my first pillar of the witch's pyramid or the power of the Sphinx, being to know. This is a great time to read, study. It's also a time where I've written several of my manuscripts. I take the last two winter tides writing mode, and I have found this to be very helpful for my seasonal depression, to like during the winter tide, to find some sort of craft and activity to keep that light within you lit. Because it can be really lonely and really hard. And something sometimes as simple as like a fun craft can kind of just help keep you floating on, you know? So yeah, this time of year also brings me into a sense of stillness, which can be peaceful and sacred, but it's also like kind of difficult for me because I mean, I'm just such a busybody that like if I sit for too long, I'm like, oh my God, am I dying? Like, I don't know. Speaking of, I live near the firehouse in the city, so I'm sure y'all can probably hear that. Um, but yeah, there's nothing quite like going outside in the middle of the night when it's snowing and everything is coated in white and everything is still and everything is quiet and everything is so liminal. And I feel so connected with like the dark goddess and more specifically with the goddess of our understanding and our tradition when I am outside in the middle of like after it has snowed and it's quiet and it's all starry. Like I don't know, there's something poetic there that I feel like really speaks to me. But I'm going to go over this winter solstice ritual, and again, this is going to be linked down below. So okay, so here is my simple winter solstice ritual. Try saying that 10 times fast. One, the first thing that we're going to do when we are creating a ritual or getting ready to perform a ritual is preparation. Now, obviously, this is going to look different depending on your flavor of witchery, your tradition, your beliefs. So take everything in this document with a heavy grain of salt because you can tweak anything that you want to here. But choose a quiet space where you're not going to be disturbed. You know, maybe don't try to do this ritual in your car on your break at work. Maybe not then is the best time to do this. Maybe wait until you're off work, you know. Gather some candles, maybe a journal, and any symbolic items that represent light and warmth to you. So this could be like crystals, a sun symbol, maybe your favorite blanket, maybe make yourself some hot cocoa, a lantern, I mean, whatever, anything, right? And then the next step would be to kind of cleanse and consecrate both yourself and the space. Again, this is going to look different depending on your flavor. But I would begin by cleansing your space, and you can do this by burning a plant of purification. So personally, for me, I have a large yew bush that grows up my driveway, and yew is very much associated with like exorcisms and the banishment of malefic entities and spirits, which a lot of cultural lore around the world speaks to the malefic entities that are thought to be very present during this time of year. So warding yourself in your home and protecting yourself not only from bad luck, but from misfortune or ill spirits is wise.
So as a Midwest witch, I like to use juniper for, cleansing. Just to add that in.
Yeah, I mean, you can, whatever that speaks to you, use it. I think blackberry would be great if you can get some of that too. Um, Rosemary is also another herb that I like to use a lot for purification, but cleanse that space. I would smoke cleanse it, and then maybe also light some frankincense and some myrrh. This is something that I would do. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I associate these so much with this time of year. Like, and the combination of frankincense and myrrh even being found like in biblical texts with that sacredness and that association with this time of year. And allow that to kind of fill your space and waft over you. You know, you cleanse yourself in your space with the rosemary, the yew, the whatever, but then you fill it back up with this sort of charging sacred protection energy amplifiers like frankincense and myrrh. Walk around your space while that incense kind of burns and let it kind of fill that space. Following that up with performing maybe like some kernips where you sprinkle some blessed or holy water around the space. And you can also anoint yourself with this water as well. And then after you've done this, I would encourage you to light like a working candle or a main ritual candle. And by doing this, you're also kind of bringing all of the elements into the ritual cleansing and consecration through the powers of earth, air, fire, and water. And after that, you've cleansed and consecrated the space. So the next step would be to basically keep a Yule fire. So prior to doing the ritual, I would recommend maybe preparing yourself a Yule log. You can still do this even if you don't have a fireplace, y'all. Okay. This can be something that you purchase. There's beautiful crafters out there that make Yule logs, or you could make it yourself. The base should be a log, preferably of a wood that you can connect with magically as far as correspondence goes. Everything with your Yule log should have some sort of sympathetic connection or link to it. So if you're decorating it in orange slices or pine or cranberries or cinnamon sticks, really think about the magical correspondence of all of those items as you are decorating your Yule log. Same with the candles. So if you're going to burn your Yule log, like if you're going to just have it on your table, instead of like lighting the whole log on fire, you can also like fix taper candles to it and burn the taper candles on the Yule log. And then you could burn your Yule log later, like in a bonfire pit or something. But I would affix like 3 to 5 taper candles upon the log, depending on how big it is. But of course, you can pick your own number of candles here, okay? You may wish to also decorate the log with ribbons, dehydrated fruits, like I said, branches of pine, yew, what have you. And be sure to keep anything that is, you know, very flammable, like the ribbons and the pine bundles and things like that. If you're burning this on your kitchen table, maybe make sure that those candles aren't going to light those on fire, right? So like practice good fire safety. And yeah, you can start this ritual around sundown, and then you can continuously replace those candles on the Yule log as the night goes on. But I encourage you to try to stay up until dawn. So for that whole winter solstice night, you are going to be consciously burning those candles on the Yule log, or just keeping your fireplace, your hearth going. And you're going to be honoring the darkest night by experiencing all of it and trying to stay up until dawn. Now, I know that can be difficult, especially if you're trying to do it on the actual like astrological day, because we got work, we got kids, whatever. So do what you will with that. You can also try doing like a simmer pot. Simmer pots I think are very popular, and I feel like they're fitting for this time of year as well. So maybe instead of a log, especially if like things like smoke and stuff isn't something that you can really have in your space, try maybe a simmer pot with those same associations, but in a simmering pot that you keep all night long. Again, practice fire safety, right? Doing this is a very powerful and protective ritual, not just for the remaining winter, but it's thought to be protective for the whole year by staying up and tending those flames. You may wish to also keep, I already said this, but a winter themed simmer pot. So after that, there's like the meditative portion. So while the fires are burning, whatever metaphorical fires you're tending, spend some time with yourself, with your spirit, with your spirits plural, you know, maybe do some divination with your spirits, focus on the light of those candles and visualize the light growing stronger and brighter and the returning of the sun. Focus on bringing warmth and happiness and protection and all of that positive, good vibes, drawing the luck to you, drawing that good year to you. And yeah, do whatever other sort of spell work or, there's kind of an open space here. Maybe this is a time where you're going to make some witch balls to give to like friends. Maybe this is a time where you're going to decorate gingerbread houses while your fires are burning. I personally have an abundance of Amazon boxes because I've been shopping for the holidays. And I saw on TikTok people making really cute gingerbread ornaments out of cardboard. So I manically the other night stayed up and made 27 because why not? So maybe think about doing some sort of fun craft to like honor the season during this time. And then whenever you're ready, right? If you don't stay up until dawn, do whatever you feel works for you in your lifestyle, but make sure that you do close it out when you're ready to close it out. And you can close the ritual by thanking your spirits, your ancestors, gods, guides, your mileage, again, is going to vary. I know that we're not all necessarily coming from the same tradition or style of practice. And then maybe think about like ringing a bell and saying something along the lines of, the time has come, what was cast now closed. Stay if you please and leave if you must, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Okay? Something real cute, real simple like that with a little bell. You can have those spirits by saying that of, stay if you will, leave if you must. If you're going to go to bed before the sun rises, maybe you can petition your spirits to keep a watchful eye over you on the darkest night as well. And yeah, that's just like a way that this very simple ritual can honor the winter solstice, welcome the returning of light, and draw good luck, fortune, and protection to you. So that's kind of my bit. Do you have any comments?
I want to craft little gingerbread cardboard houses with you.
So this kind of takes us into talking about the devil in black, because in our craft, we very much work with the 4 seasons of our beloved devil. And this time of year, the winter, we associate with the devil in black. And our devil in black comes to us during the winter tide. The devil in black at this time is like the psychopomp at the crossroads, a time of liminality and the unknown. The devil in black blesses us with arcane knowledge and teaches us wise lessons. Matters of life, death, and fate are dealt with during this time of darkness. We are blessed by the eternal black flame that burns from within, if you will. How would you say, I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, but how would you say that you relate to the devil in black during this time of year?
Well, going back to my quest with the folklore of the goddess Styx and the river Styx, the river Styx was more of like a gateway from the earth to the underworld. And you could always relate that water, that gateway, to the crossroads, and then relate the crossroads to the devil in black. That's just what comes to my mind first. I would have to think about it. That's a good question.
That's exactly what I would say too. Because like when I think about honoring the devil in black, I'm thinking about just sort of honoring death, kind of like Abby was talking about earlier. And just really acknowledging that sort of fine balance between, yes, we have, wonderful scents in our home and candles and like just the vibe of all of the holidays that take place in December, the bright trees and the lights and the frankincense and the myrrh and the ice skating. And, there's the Christ Kendall Mart that I really want to go to this year. That's like kind of near more your side of town, that has like wonderful handmade artisans that make ornaments and all types of like really cute winter stuff. There's like a John Deere tractor place, I think up in Fishers, that does the, I'm not sure if they still do it or not since they sold it to the Harley Davidson plant, but they used to have like a big, it's where that giant light crucifix is up all year long. They used to have a drive-through.
So Midwest. Love it.
So Midwest, so Ethel Kane coded. But they used to do this drive-through light display. And if they don't do it anymore, I know that the Castleton Mall does that as well, where you can drive through the parking lot and they have like all of these animatronics and light up things that you can drink your hot cocoa and take your kids or go with your friends through. And it's really fun. So I think there is this poetic balance between like acknowledging the severity of the season, how hard this time of year can be for many of us with our mental health, pressure from society when it comes to gift exchanging, issues with family, especially this year, given the current climate here in the United States.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thinking of the goddess Styx, you could also think of resting, because I feel like when she becomes her water form, she just goes into a sleep and kind of like becomes that restful, peaceful water of death, essentially. But she always comes back into her goddess form eventually to do her little goddess stuff.
Yeah, and there's balance there, right? Because there's her in the waters and her personified. And relating that back to the balance between the severity of the season and also kind of like the radiance of the season as well, because we have sort of conjured all of this light and like almost sun worship celebrations and ceremonies because it is such a dark time that I think that that also speaks to something in our human spirit that like we have to rekindle the light around us and within us in order to navigate through this darkness. Um, so yeah. Um,
Yeah, I just feel like the winter time in general is a good time to just take it easy, appreciate things for what they are, appreciate now, rest up.
do you have anything that you want to say in regards to like the people that are watching?
I hope you take time to recover if you need it, and that you heal and become the best version of you possible when it becomes light again. You know what I mean?
And with that, we wish you all a very bright solstice. May you enjoy and find the light both around you, with your friends or loved ones, and also within you. And may you rekindle that flame. And I think that's going to be it. So, with closing out, blessed be. And we will see you in hell.
Blessed be.
Hey guys, Abby the Witch here, and I decided to kind of just add my own little clip here at the end since I wasn't able to record with them in part 2. I did want to add a few things because I really loved what Core and Jasmyne had to say about everything. So Core talked all about the goddess Styx and how she's a river goddess. I just want to say how uncanny and cool it is that she actually brought up this goddess and rivers in general, because I have been so called to bodies of water lately, especially rivers and creeks in particular. I've been very obsessed. There is a local creek near me called Cool Creek. I've been looking into that more. It actually is the creek that runs right behind the cemetery that I've been researching, and I researched a lot for episode 1 of this podcast. I would love to learn more about the Wabash. I've been fascinated by the Wabash for a long time. Interestingly enough, my mom said a long time ago that she's also very drawn to the Wabash River. And she is very much not a witch at all. I mean, not that that matters, but still, it's just very interesting to me. There's something about the Wabash for sure. There is something about the Wabash. A friend of mine, shout out to David. I hope he doesn't mind me shouting him out. I'll edit this out if he doesn't want me to. But a friend of mine actually was telling me and some other people about there's some lore about the Wabash River and spirits kind of guarding it and protecting it. I think he said it's some indigenous lore. And again, I don't know if I emphasized, but this is a river here in Indiana where we reside. There's also a lot of historical significance to the Wabash. I believe there was a lot of like trading, and it was just like basically a water highway. A lot of transportation went up and down the Wabash. Not for sure on that, but I feel like I've read that before. I need to read more on the Wabash. I need to do more research on rivers and creeks, and yeah. There's also a really big river here in Indiana called the White River. I think Cor mentioned that, or Jasmine, or maybe both of them. The White River is also a very significant river in Indiana. I would say the Wabash and the White River are the two big ones. I would love to do more research on the White River as well. Supposedly it used to be very, very clean. The White River used to be very, very clean. I remember my dad actually grew up right next to the White River on a cow farm. And he used to go fishing and swimming in it all the time. He has all kinds of stories about going like pitchfork swimming, or I'm sorry. Oh my God. I don't know if I should edit that out. That's pretty funny. He has stories about going pitchfork, like fishing, like trying to catch fish. I can't remember if it was his sister's foot that he stabbed or if his sister stabbed his foot. I can't remember, but there is this like really significant story from his childhood that like really sticks out in his memory. I mean, rightfully so. One of them got stabbed in the foot, where they thought the other one's foot was a fish and with a pitchfork. Anyway, I'd love to do more research on the White River. It used to be very clean. For a while, it got very polluted and nasty. I think a lot of people have like worked together and cleaned it up, and it's like really clean again. Thank the gods. But for a while, it was very polluted from like cow farms and waste, like dumping and all kinds of gnarly shit. But yeah, thank the gods. I'm pretty sure it's been cleaned up. So anyway, I really think that Cor bringing up Styx, it makes me wonder if, like, I had never even heard of her, y'all. I'd never even heard of this goddess. And listening to her talk about it as I was editing, I was like, has my fascination and like this like uncanny, like borderline obsession with rivers and creeks lately been her calling me? Maybe. I don't know. I work with the Greek pantheon. I do also want to point out that I love that book that Cor brought up of Blood and Bones. I feel like it was pretty popular for a while, but I have talked to some witches who had not even heard of it. So if you hadn't heard of it, highly recommend, especially if you're into tradcraft, especially if you're into working with the dark moon. She talks a lot about working with the dark moon, not the new moon, the dark moon. She talks a lot about working with death current, death energy. Like Cor said, that's where she gets her recipe for death incense. That's also where I got my inspiration for the way I make death incense as well. So great read, fantastic read. I also have a ton of post-it notes in that book and notes. I love that book. I feel like every witch kind of has like a staple book in their practice. That's one of them. I definitely still go to and refer to every once in a while. I love that book. The simple solstice, winter solstice ritual seems very interesting. I did do I don't know if I am allowed to say this. I think I can say it. I did do the simple Samhain ritual that Jasmyne put together for Gray Chords of SCC. And it was fabulous. I would definitely try out the winter solstice one as well. Not going to be able to stay up all night, but maybe 25-year-old Abby would. 35? No. But I would like to try it. Maybe just a little ritual. We'll see. I feel like with the winter solstice, I feel like all of December, even January is very like, I honor it all month long of December and January. And I'm not saying like it's a 2-month long ritual. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, I don't know. It's different for me than like Samhain or like even like Beltane. I don't know. I just feel like the whole winter season is just like I'm bunkering down. I'm using introspection. I'm eating warm foods. I'm acting very, very grateful for having things like warm food, a warm house, a roof over my head, a warm bed, right? We are very lucky, those of us who have these things, to have those things. We are very lucky. Because like kind of like what Jasmyne was saying too, and that leads me into the next part, is that even people who live very close to us in Indy, who are homeless and live outside, Indianapolis treats them terribly, horribly. I've lived downtown before too. I've seen it. We do not take care of our homeless here in America. Among other people who need help. Anyway, that being said, I'm very grateful for everything that I have. And even globally speaking, people in Palestine right now are living in tents. So gratitude, 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 right? Just being grateful for everything we have. Because Jasmyne is right. There is like, I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's so funny she said this because, you know, it's like that. She was saying this balance of, you know, winter is kind of this balance of like severity and like it being cold and dark. But then there's also the side of it that comes from our privilege, right? Of it being like this cozy and pretty lights and warm blankets and good food and warm beds and a hot shower, which are wonderful, wonderful things. But again, not everyone has those things, whether it be now right under our nose, or it be like historically speaking, even our own ancestors, like winter wasn't always viewed as like a cozy time of year. You know, it was a very hard time of year. So it's like this weird balance, you know. She and I were talking the other day about how, you know, we love this time of year and we actually really do love the cold weather. But like, girl, I like it because I can go back into my house and be warm. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't about to go out there and live in it. So, you know, just count your blessings. You know, it kind of reminds me of people who say like, oh, I would love to just disappear and live in the woods with all the animals. And it's like, I get it. You know, like I want to get away sometimes too. I understand. I'm not trying to like make fun of those people, but like, I feel like sometimes when people say things, they forget that there are people in the world who would love to have a roof over their head. You know what I mean? So just food for thought, you know, just, you know, maybe a little bit more gratitude, you know, but that's all I really had to add, you guys. I hope you enjoyed part 2 and I was able to pop on here at the end and kind of add my 2 cents. So that's nice. And until next time, guys, I will see you in hell. Later.